Once again, we play in the VAQP, K1GMM, Steve, Vermont. Let me get my oodles of noodles up here on the screen. Jared, how the heck could you how could you be in there that fast? We're going to knock around the VAQP, and maybe if this is a bust, we can find a place to chat if you're near the radio. What's up, Lofty? I'm going to make a few calls here. There's pretty much nothing going on the band. I think everybody's off watching TV or doing something, so. Paul, what's up? M3EYG. Yeah, we're going to kind of chug along here, and maybe if I can find a clear frequency, if I can't drum up any activity in the VAQP, I'll knock around on 40 for a little bit and then call it quits. But timing is everything, isn't it, Paul? Jared, sorry, dude. Hey, Carl, how's it going? KD9LTQ. Thanks, guys, for throwing in your call signs. Appreciate that. Even though I'll tell you, I'll never remember. Ever. So, all right. Let's see what's going on. I'm going to do a quick sweep and then... Hey, Glenn. Yeah, back for one last hurrah before I go into a total dribbling idiot coma here. Like I said, really not a lot of activity.
Probably.
So.
But you don't need to touch it over.
West County.
CQ, the Virginia QSO
Party Kilo 4, Victor, India, George, and West County. CQ, the Virginia QSO Party Kilo 4.
Hey, that's the guy.
India, George, and West County.
With County, that's the guy I couldn't get before. I thought I recognized that. How's it going, Nathan? Good to see you. Oh, hey, Craig, what's going on, man? 2M0LXX. What do you mean your shack's not set up? Hey, that's no excuse for that, dude. There's no excuse. We got AM broadcast creeping in here above 7,200, so it's going to push me right out of here pretty quick. Current time 21:42. 5:42 p.m. Eastern Standard. Hey, I didn't do this before. This is actually a good one. Relevant to ham radio. This is a good one. Writing something out is the memory equivalent of reading it 7 times. This can be a helpful tip when studying, and I'm going to tack this on, studying for what? Yeah. Now, granted, basically, if you wrote out everything you had to learn to get your ticket, you might as well just write a book. So, I guess that's relevant only to a certain extent. I guess you could write out, I've done that before. I've written out the question, written out the answer, or I've just written out the answer before. It does help to write it down. Kind of cool. Life hacks. 16th and 17th of March. Yay.
Roger, you are 559 into Georgia.
For All-Star, Glenn, that is a complicated thing. All-Star Okay. If you want to run your own all-star node, quote, node, you would need something like a Raspberry Pi. It doesn't work like DMR or something like that, D-Star or whatever. If you wanted your own all-star node, you can set it up with a little Raspberry Pi. I have one over there. I don't have it handy. I'd grab it for you if you've never seen one. Raspberry Pi, and I think they just released a new one that's even more powerful, but don't hold me to that. You need your own Raspberry Pi, a USB adapter, interface, and then a radio. A lot of guys use like a, I can tell you, like the TYT 9000 series, they have a jack right on the board. You pop the covers on them, pop the cover. It's got a knockout in the back for what is it, a DB? You know, it's like a 9-pin. What do they call that? DB9 or whatever. I don't know, something like that. And you can order the cable from DigiKey. It plugs right into the board. Take the pin out, wire it into the plug. Take your USB adapter, plug it in. Plug the USB end into the Pi. You're up and running. Got your own all-star node. There's another option if you want what's called a headless all-star node, which is what I would recommend to begin with, because most people have cell phones and computers. You can set up your own all-star node with just a Raspberry Pi, and you use it as a radioless headless node. And you can hop all over the place with it. Use your cell phone with an app. It's a free app called IAXRPT, or a computer. And all of the setup information you'll ever need is on my YouTube channel. It's in there. You're going to have to hunt for it, though, and fish for it. So, start to finish, and it's in layman's terms. And if you follow it to a T, it will work, guaranteed. I know, right, Ed? Joe, that's no problem. Of course, any all-star, just as a little supplement to that, there are all-star nodes and repeaters around. There's a lot of them. Chances, I can't remember where you're at, Glenn. There may be one you could even hit with a beam, but if you want one to go wherever you want to go, probably the first thing to do is to get yourself a Raspberry Pi and set it up. You can go to allstar.org, whatever it's called, and apply for a node. It usually arrives. You just they gotta confirm you're a ham, and it's overnight. You'll have a node assigned to you the next day, and then just you can contact me and I'll help you get it up and going. No problem. 2 miles from Florida. Boy, if you're about 300 miles south, you could hit a friend of mine's node right down in Port St. Lucie. How far is that from Jacksonville? That's probably what, good 200-300 miles, I would think. I think that's it. All right. Let's see what's going on.
Showing into Central South Carolina.
It's Kilo November 4, Sugar Golf Fox, Sierra Golf Fox, SGF. And appreciate you being out there, and thanks for your contact today.
Kilo Alpha Golf 4 X-ray uniform.
Boy, I don't even hear the station they're talking to.
Good afternoon. This is Kilo Alpha 9 Golf Delta Whiskey.
Hey, Paul. What's going on?
Golf Delta Whiskey.
Joe, yeah. Jeez, dude. What do they call it? I'm a jack of all almost all subjects and masters of absolutely nothing. I'm into a lot of things. There's a lot of things I want to get into, but, you know, it takes a lot of time. No problem, Glenn. You're welcome. Well, I'm glad you can gain something, anything, even if it's like a little tiny tidbit of useful info. Hey, that's cool. Take it and run like your hair is on fire.
Thank you for activating.
Okay, that's an activation. This frequency has been clear, so I think I'm going to jump in here. I'll just check the tune quick. And I will throw out a few calls. For those of you that aren't aware, that have never watched the stream before or don't know what I'm doing, you're asking me, why don't I hear a carrier when I tune up? I'll show you why. You see this dip right here? I use what's called an MFJ Matchmaker 212. And it's a carrierless tuning. So basically, if you're using a pan adapter or an S meter, you look for the lowest S meter reading. It'll start out at 20 over. And as you tune the antenna, it will begin to drop. And when it drops below an S9, it's pretty much tuned, or at the lowest point it gets to. Using a pan adapter, you tune on the dip. So where it dips, like I'll show you, if you roll the capacitor on the tuner, see it move? Basically, you tune the antenna until you see it dip all the way down to the bottom. And basically, I have nothing on the S meter. It goes from like a 20 over to 0. It's actually more precise than tuning with a carrier. It's really amazing. And it doesn't throw any interference on the band. So anybody who's never seen something like that before, that is what's going on. I just have a good time. That's all I do. You know, I'm just having fun. And if you're not having fun in this hobby, I think it's time for you to move on and do something else. That's the way I look at it. That's just me. Okay, let's light it up. Is this frequency in use? Is this frequency in use? K1GMM. I'll just start calling, see if anybody comes back. Yes, that's true, Joe. If you can place the ATU at the antenna, that is the spot right there. The problem is I need so many ATUs here. I have 4 ports on the Alpha Delta and they're all loaded. And they're all resonant antennas, but once you move off the point of resonance, some of them have not a huge Q. It's a difference of a flat 1-to-1 and maybe a 1.3 to 1.5 to 1, which is still acceptable, but I have noticed a difference when I load them flat and I move up the band or off the resonant mark. With beams as well, you'll find that the front to back and gain changes depending on how far you move off resonant frequency. So I always try to snap them into shape as close as possible. Take it easy on the amp. You don't have any reflected power in the shack. It's I don't know, I'm kind of neurotic about that, and I've seen over and over again where I've had like a 1.4, 1.5 to 1 SWR, and I've tried to get someone and I couldn't get them, and I just rolled the inductor or the cap on the tuner and just touched it up till it was flat, and boom, first call, bang, they got me. So theoretically, there's not a big difference between flat and 1.5, but I've seen it a lot. But again, I'm also dealing with monoband antennas. No, I don't not particularly fond of. I'd run one if I had to. I have a doublet up right now, but I hate that thing. It just does not hear like these other antennas do. But it's not going to, is it? It's just the nature of the beast. Any multi-band antenna is never going to hear the way a monoband antenna hears. It's just, you can't break the laws of physics there. Take an antenna that's not set up to be resonant on particular frequency, and then take an antenna that is resonant and cut bang on for that frequency. 9 times out of 10, it's probably going to outperform the one that's you're trying to force into a place where it's just not naturally resonant. OCF being an exception. OCFs are surprisingly effective, I think. I haven't run one. I played with one on receive, and good God, that thing was great on receive. Phenomenal, but noisy as all get out, and that had to do with the balun I'm sure I was using. You need a lot of suppression on those. Come on, anybody. Otherwise, I'm going to shut down the VAQP, and I'm going to move on to something else. That's how many calls? A dozen calls? A couple dozen calls? It's just nobody on. Nobody on in the VAQP anymore. We've got about 2 hours left in the event. I'm gonna actually... Okay. Looks like that is a bust-a-move. What do you think, guys? Pull the plug? DX is starting to come in. There was an Oscar Mike that was absolutely stomping it in here. Yeah, the bands were horrible. Absolutely horrible today. Virginia is usually, I can work Virginia, I've done it, on 5 watts at 10 to 15 over. And the signals were just not there. Virginia is a really good path for me on 40. It's just not good. All right, that's enough of that. I'm done. Let's go see what's going on.
CQ, Virginia KSL Party, Ocean Mary 2, Victor Lima, Oscar Mike 2, Victor Lima, Virginia KSL Party, QRZ.
Hey Hank, how's it going? Good to see you. Thanks for chiming in, even though you're watching. Always good to meet you guys and see who's creeping around in there. And I hope you're able to sleep at night, by the way.
Papa X-ray, thank you for the multiplier, 5
Hey, Brian.
Yeah,
hey, you made it.
One open and one closed, and so that makes a big difference on 80. On 80, 2 closed loops is like almost a dead straight.
Okay, that is non-English.
To Romania and all those countries east of Germany, and I think
rethink this equation. Close this logbook, open log for OM.
But I think it's only for the advantage, or mostly for the advantage of the upper class. Anyway, that's my opinion. I don't think everyone will agree with it. Do you happen to know about the situation when the Industrial Revolution took place in Europe, in Great Britain and Germany, but especially when it started in Great Britain? How people had to live there that period?
Yeah, a little bit. But to go back to what you're talking about, I think capital will always seek out or create situations where it can access cheap labor. It needs the labor to create the wealth class of it.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said, I think it's my opinion when they don't have to
Close that.
fear that they will change to the other side, they can.
I'm really disappointed, man. That was a complete bust, man. The Virginia QSO party.
And export,
Just there wasn't activity in there. I really expected there to be a lot of activity, and signals were there yesterday, but didn't work anything. 20, 21 maybe. That's pathetic.
Exactly. Maybe it's maybe
you can call me anything you want.
But if you see a film, there was a film lately on TV.
Cool, Brian. Wow.
The British Empire, how it was
best of luck. That you'll do fine. Do absolutely fine.
The worldwide biggest empire for a
No, it's really not. You're right, Glenn. It's more the nerves, I think, than anything else. For me, it was. It was the nerves that really made a mess out of me.
United Tango Victor 73. Thank you very much, 73 Joseph. Beaming to North America, this is Italy, Victor 3, United Tango Victor, over.
Okay, that is...
India, Quebec,
I worked him November last year, so he's probably worth working again. So that's at the opposite of the band, so I gotta just touch it up down there. And down, down, down she goes.
Yeah, Roger, time 100%, no problem. Thank you very much for this contact, and I hope to meet you again in this and the other band. Nancy 2, Sierra India, Quebec, this is Italy, Victor 3, United Tango Victor, 73, bye-bye. Again.
Sugar Victoria Papa.
Whiskey Echo, try again. Florida, Mexico, try again, please, one more time. Please, only Florida, Mexico, try again.
Boy, last time I talked to him, he threw a big signal in. He's 5'9" plus.
Roger. Florida, Mexico 5, Whiskey Echo. Nice to meet you, guy. Nice to meet you. I am in this moment might been a little in the North America, but I copy very well. A good 5x9 at the moment, but my antenna not in your direction. Foxtrot, Mexico 5, Whiskey Echo. This is Italy, Victor 3, United Tango Victor for you, over.
No, the second antenna, what's the profile?
But it's the same signal. The first antenna 5x9, the second 5x9, the only same signal, negative difference.
Okay, thank you very much. Best messages, very good for you guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Roger, guy. Bye-bye 73. Bye-bye.
Sugar Victoria.
Kilo 1 Golf Mike.
Kilo 2 Lima Tango Mexico. Kilo 2 Lima Tango Mexico. This is Italy Victor 3, United Tango Victor. Lester, for you, over.
Martin, you're crazy, dude. Crazy.
Yeah, Roger. Maurizio, the name. Okay, 100% listen. Nice
You guys are going to die
again.
when I tell you this.
Yeah,
Should I tell you this?
I am running today with my
See you, Paul.
new
Have a good
radio
evening.
Icom.
Yeah, it's slow going.
7,600.
Figured I'd jump back in here, try and finish up the VAQP, but that's a bust, so I may work some DX and then call it quits. I'm tired. Last night was the first good night's sleep I got since before the time change. I was getting like 4 to 6 hours a night for well over a week, and I was toast. Last night I was toast, man. I couldn't even see straight. Yeah, I kept working.
Yeah, Roger,
I'll tell you in a minute.
Thank you very much. A very compliment for your senior is very, very good, very, very strong. Bye-bye, lesson 73.
Kilo 1 Golf Mike.
Mike, can you please try again? Mike.
Kilo 1 Golf Mike, over.
Roger, Kilo 1 Golf Mike 7, nice to meet you. You have a good senior, 5x9 plus in Italy, very nice copy.
Cool.
This is Italy Victor 3, United Tango Victor. The name is Mauri, Mexico, America, Uniform Radio Italy. Kilo 1 Golf Mike, this is IV3 UTV for you, over.
IV3 UTV, K1GMM, Maori, very good. Very good signal into state of Vermont this evening. 5.9 plus, no problem. Been listening to you for a little bit, and absolutely beautiful audio. So nice, very nice sounding signal and station. You got it. Name is Steve over here in Vermont. I'm not going to hold it. A lot of people calling. Maury, thanks for picking up the call. You have a good evening and a great week coming up, and good DX, buddy. IV3 UTV from Kilo 1 Golf Mike. Over.
Yeah, Roger, Steven. You also very good audio. You also very good signal and very good audio, Steven. Thank you very much for this contact, and I hope to meet you again, my friend Steven. Kilo 1 Golf Mike, this is IV3 UTV 73.
Thank you, Maury. 73. Have a good one. K1GMM.
Victor Papa.
Excuse me.
Gang.
Sugar Whiskey Delta 4. Oscar Zulu. Victor Papa.
Okay, Whiskey Bravo 9 Delta Zulu Sierra.
Brennan, what are you going to do for a 40-meter boomer? If you got the room, put up a smoking gun, buddy. That's what I would do. I would never live without this antenna I have.
I am in the northeast part of Italy.
Relatively modest amount of power. I was running 30% drive about 350 out, 400 out, and I'm Nest 9 Plus to Italy. So that is all the antenna. That is the antenna doing the heavy lifting. If you can get something, 40's a good band. It is a really good band. If you can get something cracking up for 40, you'll work. Good heavens, you won't need an amplifier. I'll tell you that. If you get something good up for 40, you can save yourself $1,500 to $3,000 for a 50-foot spool of wire. Do the math. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, Roger Tom, very nice copy. You also good signal and good audio, very, very good audio.
Golf Echo.
Yeah, it's such a great band, isn't it, Carl?
Fabian, thank you, my friend. You are 5'9", over 5 in North.
You can rag chew on it. You can work DX. You work the entire world on it. It's really the go-to band at the bottom of the cycle. I really believe that. Such a great band.
Chico Alfa 7, Juliet, Bravo Delta, cambio.
What is that mess I hear in there?
Ok, 5-9 para ti. Hotel November 2, Hotel Kilo, en mobile. Dime tu nombre, el mío José, estoy en Málaga, sur de España, ¿cambió?
Mi nombre es Javier. Mi nombre es...
No, it's not good, Martin. You got to be able to get some sleep. Oh. Problem is, I'm wound up tighter than a piano string most of the time. And I go to sleep really good, but boy, if I wake up at night, my brain starts going and it's all over.
Okay, Fabián, oye, muy fuerte.
Hey, Zach, what's up?
Por Málaga, sur de España, 5-9 más 10,
I got a friend that says that no matter, regardless of the time of day, he goes, good morning.
Hotel Alfa, November 2, Hotel Kilo, Eco Alfa, número 7, Juliet, Bravo Delta.
Yeah, 20. Martin, what's 20 been like in the UK? 20 has been awful here. If you got your general, you get your extra. I'll just tell you an inspirational story. You guys want to know a little bit about me. I am about the most transparent person, and I ain't blowing smoke or anything. This is the honest to God truth. I am not book smart at all. Well, you could probably tell that, and that's the truth. I know that. I never did well in school. School was a challenge for me. I never tested well. So fast forward to 4 years ago, even the driver's test, oh my God. Like mechanical things, my wife calls me what's called a kinesthetic learner. I learn by doing. Basically, the public school systems are not the structure in what you find in the public school system is not geared for a person with, I don't know if you'd call, I guess from the mainstream, you'd say I'd had a learning disability. I just couldn't grasp things. Now, I have a photographic memory, so if you show me something, one, I'll remember what it looks like, pretty much. Two, I'm a kinesthetic learner. And so I've always been the type of person that can see something, go, I ain't going to buy that, I'll build it. And that's what I do. I build all my own stuff. You'll never see me buying. The only kinetic antenna I ever bought commercially was the Cobra. And the only reason I bought the Cobra, which I'm sorry I did now, knowing what I know now, I could have built a doublet myself that would work as good as that. Paid $120-something for it. Yeah, whatever. You know, so I can see something and I can go, oh, okay. You know, crunch a few numbers and slap it together and throw it up in the air. I know people who buy OCFs. And I'm like, why would you buy an OCF? Go to Home Depot, get yourself a spool of wire. It's basic math, 1/3, 2/3. Figure out what the lowest band is you want it for. I threw together a 75-meter OCF in literally 20 minutes. I had the feed point and everything done. Hole drilled through a piece of cutting board, SO239 smacked into it with a 1/3, 2/3 feed on a 75-meter dipole. I put that thing up in the air with a 4-to-1, a homebrew 4-to-1 on it. And by God, that freaking antenna loaded up 1.4-to-1 or less on 80, 40, 20, 17, 15, 10, and 6 meters. Freaking, and that thing heard amazing. What did that antenna cost me? Let's say, what, $2.50 for an SO239? Took me 20 minutes to build. And I used PVC, cut off 3/4 inch PVC for insulators for the ends. Hooked paracord to the ends, fired a couple lines over the tree, pulled the thing up there, done. You know, so, you know, this is all leading somewhere. That's the type of person I am. A lot of people aren't like that. I'll give you an example of what happens to me constantly. I get accosted by folks who have seen videos of this carnage that I put together, like the mag loops and stuff like that, and they say, can you give me a detailed build plan with a parts list and everything? And I'm like, no, I can't. This was all built visually. I built it out of my mind. I look at it and I go, okay, magnetic loop, what could I make that out of? Oh, I got some LMR 400 sitting around. Okay, how big do I make the loops? Okay, run the numbers. How big do I make the coupling loop? Run the number. Okay, well, that'll work. Shoot, now what am I going to put it on? I go, oh, okay, here's the superstructure, the framework to mount it on. And then I go, oh, shoot, I've got to put a vacuum variable cap in there because I want to throw like a kilowatt on it into it. You know, so I go, okay, now I need a box for the vacuum variable cap. So I start looking around for boxes. And so the build starts expanding, and I do all this in my mind before I even start cutting or doing anything. So once I have it all figured out in my mind, I don't even write it down. I don't. I go to the store and I get all the stuff. I go through the build plan in my head and I get all the stuff. And 99.99% of the time, I get everything I need in the first try. That's the type of person I am. Total hack. You know, so if you ask me for a specific build plan on a magnetic loop, it ain't going to happen. I'm not going to sit there and write out a list of parts and pieces you'll need. If you can't look at something, I don't have time. You know how long it would take me to put together a comprehensive build plan for an antenna like that? Step-by-step instructions along with components. I don't have time for that. I'm sorry. I feel bad, but that's me. That's the type of person I am. So fast forward to the exams, right? I don't test well. Horrible. I get nervous. When I went to take my technician, I was shaking so freaking bad I couldn't even write my name. I was 51 years old at the time. What 51-year-old gets that nervous taking a stupid exam, right? But I never tested well. It was horrible. So what I'm about to tell you is how I did it, okay? And how I got my extra. I studied for a long time. I think it was about 6 weeks to get my technician. The general I studied for, I think, 2 weeks. 2 weeks? My extra I studied for 10 days. And I studied approximately 2 hours a day in 20-minute bursts, and I continued to take the online tests until I reached 90%. The first test I took, I got 39% on the extra. I didn't know anything. Within 2 days, I was at 80%. But that's not good enough, because I know when I get in there, I'll freak and I'll panic. So once I hit 80%, then I really knuckled down. I said, okay, I need to be probably 92% or more, higher consistently. I can't go, the minute I got below 90%, I'd hit one and I'd go below 90%, I would pound the information into my skull from that area that I was fuzzy on, right? So I think it was 2 nights before I went and took the extra, I was scoring 98% every single time and I took hordes of tests online with all different combinations, 98%. Now remember, I'm not book smart. And the night before I went to take the test, I got 2 100%. So right there, I knew that I could walk in and I was getting it no matter what. Basically, the world would have to come to an end for me not to get it. And I walked in, and if I got one, probably got one wrong. I think there was one that I was a little fuzzy on. So that's the reason why I'm telling you this, is because it can be done. You can take someone like me who horrible at testing. I had maybe I can tell you the only reason I graduated high school is because my parents ripped me out of a public school, put me in a private school, and the lowest passing grade was an 80. And if I didn't get an 80 or higher on every single test, I'd have to completely retake the material. And I wouldn't graduate unless I had the material required and scoring an 80 or above. I wasn't going to graduate. So, yeah. So I figured I'd give you a picture of... It's shocking because someone who is not book smart at all, in any sense of the word, can do it. Anybody can do it. Anybody. So the biggest thing is the nerve issue. If you can come up with a way to calm the nerves and clear your mind, walk in the park. I'm sorry, but that was kind of like a little bit of history. A lot of guys watch this. You guys watch this. You don't really know anything about me. So if you want to know, and now you're really scarred for life, my apologies. I'll knock around here and see if there's anything else going on. I'll put it back in the loop. Get the audio back on.
Victor 73, Tony.
So that's the rig right now, over.
Okay, Lester. Very good. We won't call you any old man. We'll call you Lester.
Lofty. I think what is it, guys? What is it? Maybe you guys could explain this to me. Is because when you want something so bad, maybe that's what does it. Maybe that's what I wanted it really bad. I mean, it was like I was gonna die if I didn't get it. I mean, how completely ridiculous is that? But that's the way I am. That's the way I get. I'm like, ugh, I go after something and, you know, I just gotta get it. Joe, that's 1/4-inch soft copper. That's pretty tiny stuff. But if you can get it to work, like I always say, if it works, who cares? The size, yeah, on a magnetic loop, just in layman's terms, it's all about skin effect, right? RF flows on the outside. That's why if you use like LMR 400 or coaxial cable or Heliax, a lot of people, and I did this just because it was recommended to do it, and it makes sense to me. You know how you have a center pin on the center of the coax surrounded by dielectric, and then you have the shielding. Well, the RF is going to flow on the shield on a magnetic loop, but you've got that center conductor in there. So most people recommend, is it worse? Does it have more of a negative effect to leave the center pin lifted, in other words, not connected, and leave that piece of copper inside with RF around it? Or does it make more sense to connect the center pin to the shield and couple everything? I couple everything, and it seems to work. That coaxial magnetic loop, I was running probably ERP. I was running 100 watts out of the 857. ERP, probably 60 watts, 50 watts, something like that. And punched right through in the CQ Worldwide DX contest into Europe with that thing. And that's a contest environment. That is a freaking madhouse. So those things don't need to be, you know, a 1/4-inch diameter tubing. I guess it depends on what band you're going to try and operate it on. But obviously the bigger the diameter, The more skin effect, the smaller the loops can be. So the smaller diameter, less skin effect, radiating area, less area for that RF, that energy to travel on, the larger the loop structure needs to be. So, boy, if you can make that work. Yes, 3/4. 3/4 or 1/4. You can get 5/8 tubing fairly cheap. It's basically refrigerant tubing. It's what I use out of a place in Florida. Type in, I think it's called HVAC tubing. And you can get it on eBay in 50-foot coils, pancake coil it's called. And it's 5/8 diameter. I've got, I don't know where they are. They were here in the shack, but oh, they're outside in the garage right now. That's the way to go. If you want like a permanent magnetic loop, ooh, yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. And you bend it by hand. It's great. And it was cheap. I think it was 80 bucks, 85 bucks for 50 feet, which is not bad. You're talking 5/8 copper. That's pretty good. Where are we?
Yeah,
Matt.
I don't normally do that. Let's see.
Whiskey again.
Oh, that's look at that pan adapter. That is European broadcast right there. Hey, I didn't show you this, you guys. Why isn't it, let me see if we can work this out. Why isn't it good, Zach? It's still not good. Your magnetic loop, use 213. Okay, explain to me what's going on with that. And use a 300 puff vac variable cap for tuning the loop. That's a good range, Joe. Really good range. If you can get it down to, let's say it's like a 30, 40, 50 puff to 300, that's great. That's great because you can push the efficiency envelope. And you can tune the loop for the sweet spot. Let's say 40 meters. Yeah, Zach, I'm kind of curious as to why. You said your magnetic loop is still not good. You used 213's big stuff. That should work. Shoot me, I'll tell you what, Zach, shoot me an email or something. Hey, Alexander, pretty good. We're just talking about all kinds of different things here. I'm watching the chat. Guys are talking about magnetic loops and stuff like that. And Zach, I didn't even realize, Zach, you had a magnetic loop. RG213, that's the same diameter, I believe, as 400, right? It's 0.450. That should work. That should work. Yeah, Zach, get in touch with me. I'm no expert with those, but I built a few of them now with all different configurations, and mine works really good. And it's just a coaxial magnetic loop, and it's a high power loop. So it could be something silly like the RX was good. It could be something silly like the coupling loop. The coupling loop could be a little bit off. Sometimes if you make the coupling loop on these just a hair smaller than what's recommended, it actually tunes much better. But see, if it's hearing good and it's not radiating well, it's not transmitting, then you got something going on. curious though. Makes me curious. They're complex antennas and they're hard to figure out. They take some tinkering, but once you get it, they work surprisingly well. Very time consuming though to get those dialed in.
CQ Virginia Q so party Usher Mary 2 Victor Lima Oscar Mike 2 Victor London QRZ.
Oh, okay. Zach, so you got a 2 to 250 puff, is that correct? 2 to 250? Is that the range? Go ahead and put that in the chat. Because that's a perfect range. So 3/4. Yeah, the 5. I messed with 5/8, 5/8 tubing, 5/8 diameter, soft copper tubing. It's great. Won't kink. You can bend it. It's like you can just take your hand and bend it. Big long hoop of it, and then you can like force it out into a perfect circle, you know. Two by 250 puff. So I'm assuming that's a 2 to 250 puff. And is it a air variable or vacuum? If you're going to throw more than, I don't know. It depends on the vacuum variable, right? So the vacuum, it depends on the spacing of the fins on the cap. So if you're using an air variable cap, obviously the wider the spacing, the more power you're going to be able to throw into it before it starts arcing. So I don't even mess with air variables. I just spend the money. Mag loops are so complex, and they're we're at the bottom of a cycle, and I'm not a big QRP guy. I probably never will be. So if I'm taking the time to go up that mountain, or I'm going out portable, I want to run the maximum amount of fire through that thing as I can possibly run. So hence I always deal with vacuum variables. Think what you want, say what you want. I don't care. Okay, I don't. It's whatever you want to do. Well, you guys would want to, anybody would want to do with a magnetic loop. But at the peak of a cycle, who cares? Go out there with a friggin' piece of string. You'll make a contact, but every ounce of signal counts, especially in an antenna like that. So yeah, 58. I'll tell you what I use, Zach, and it works really good. Go to, you may even be able to get a piece of it cut. I bought a pancake coil of ice maker tubing. You seen this stuff? Get it right. I think I bought mine in Home Depot. It's 1/4 inch. I think it's 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch. Can't remember. You know, ice maker tubing for a refrigerator. It's that thin stuff. It's like as big around as this pen. That makes a great coupling loop. That is awesome. I would try that. I would take your coax. I wouldn't even put a connector on it. I would take your coax and solder your center pin and your shield right onto it. Right onto the two ends of the loop. Secure it somehow and run with it. And to test it, you can use alligator clips, right? So cut it a little bit long, just a tiny bit longer than what it calls for, and then start trimming it. Trim it like 1/4 inch at a time with a pair of heavy wire cutters, dikes, whatever. Keep snipping it off 1/4 inch at a time. Put the alligator clip back on, check it. I can tell you that the 2-turn loops, if you're running a single turn, the coupling is much easier. If you're running a 2-turn loop, the coupling gets more complex because you won't be able to run the coupling loop. So you've got your main loop, right? let's say your cap is on the bottom, you got your coupling loop up here, right here. So on a single turn loop, you can get the coupling loop right on the secondary loop, right? But if you go 2-turn loop, you'll have them, just warning, you'll have to drop that coupling loop. You have to keep moving it away and moving it away. And that gets a little bit more complex, but it does work. Yeah, Craig, we'll catch you later, dude. There is nothing going on in this band. This is the most boring thing, so I don't even know if I'll render this.
Which was Amico. Basically, I think the 8C1 is a little bit meatier.
Including parts for the power supply and
See. You. No. Oh.
Slow scan.
Low wires attached to an external tuner. The tuner is on the top of a 14-meter high tower. So I have a 1.5 loop antenna for all the bands from the 10 to the 80-meter band. Back to you. And your power, please. Just a little bit.
I meant to tell you too, Zach, if you run a 2-turn loop, right, the spacing between the two secondary loops is going to be critical. The further away, I ran into this when I was playing with a 160-meter loop, which I am going to build probably this summer. I've got the cap. I just need to figure out what to build the secondary loops out of. There can't be any breaks in the loops because of the skin effect, and I think I had that screwed up because I had some pieces of tubing sweated together, and also the spacing between the secondary loops, if you look at it lengthwise down the side, I think I had like a 4-inch spacing. That's not enough on 160. You have to go out like freaking, oh God, probably a foot or more on the spacing. Now when you do that, you lose inductance. So it's going to require more capacitance to tune. And I only have a 10 to 100 puff capacitor, which means I'm going to need a doorknob cap. Now I have found extreme high voltage doorknob caps, which is what I probably use. So I'd pick up like 50 puff doorknob cap. So that in line would give me 60 to 150 puffs of capacitance, right? Theoretically. I don't know if that would be enough. I think when I ran the numbers, I think it would require between 150 and 200 puffs to tune. But it's ginormous. I think the loops were almost 7 feet in diameter, and it was 5/8 tubing. So it's a huge loop. Huge. I have the structure and everything's all built. I just screwed it up. So I don't know, I'll play with that, but I figured I'd throw that in there too regarding magnetic loops. If you're running a 2-turn, be careful of that spacing because that's another variable. So I would start with the widest spacing you can get. Set your coupling loop for the proper dimensions, and then see if you can get it to load. If it'll load, then you're good. Then you can start working on the coupling loop. If it won't load, you're going to need to move. There's 2 options. You're going to need to move the 2 secondary loops closer together to increase the inductance. And then you'll get enough capacitance in your circuit there to actually tune the antenna. If that doesn't work, you're busted. And if it does work, you may be still busted because what may happen is that the field of radiation can become unstable because the loops are too close together. And what'll happen, which is what happened to me, I talked to my friend Kerry, VK4TUB, and he suspected this is what was happening. When you start putting, it's fine with a dead carrier on low power, but the minute you start hitting it with modulation, full boat, like 100 watts or more, it becomes unstable, and you'll see the SWR spike. It'll like spike off the charts. So something to watch for. Anyways, I think I'm going to pull a plug, you guys. I'll catch you later. Have a good evening. This is about the least productive thing. I made one contact, so that's cool. So I'm kind of, I'm done. You know, I'm not going to go chasing any more VA. I'm not in the mood to work any DX, and there's really nothing there, so. Okay. Yeah, I'll try and help Zach, but like I said, I'm no expert with those things. But I've played with them quite a bit over the past 3 years, and I built 3 of them total. So, and they all work, except the 4th one I built, the 160, was a total bust. That didn't work at all. All right. Catch you guys later, 7:30. Have a good evening. I'm not going to let this render. This is like senseless foof. So there's no reason to have this on the channel. But good to see you guys. Catch you later.